As part of our local outreach, we hosted a board game swap meet and wanted to share our thoughts to help you with running your own similar local event.
All right, welcome to episode 285 of the Tabletop Bellhop Gaming Podcast, where we're going to talk about what we did right, what we did wrong, and what we plan to do next time we have a board game trade day. We'll also be sharing our first thoughts on Vantage. That is the new sci-fi open world sandbox game from Stonemaier Games. And we'll be talking a bit about our first ProtoWIN local game designer day.
To wrap things up, we've got 3 reviews. The Uncharted Expansion for Land vs. Sea from Good Games Publishing, Pencil Book Quest, a follow-up to Pocketbook Adventures, and a card game accessibility tool, the P-Cup.
First, we should introduce ourselves. I'm Sean, your host, and with me is Deanna.
Hey to all the bellhop boarders.
And of course, Mo, the Tabletop Bellhop himself.
I am Mo Tuzano, the Tabletop Bellhop, your cardboard concierge, helping you make your game nights better.
We like to record Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern at twitch.tv/tabletopbellhop, and we love it when people join us in the lobby, our chat room.
Okay, now we've got some housekeeping. First up, disclosure. Wherever you're watching or listening to this, any links you see are most likely affiliate links. When you use one of our affiliate links, it costs you nothing extra and helps to support the show. Speaking of supporting the show, we need to acknowledge that this episode exists because of the support of our awesome Patreon patrons. Finally, I want to point out that you can find links to absolutely everything we're going to talk about in this episode in our show notes. So if you're listening and you find yourself thinking, what was that game they mentioned? Or how do you spell that? Or what link did they just talk about? You just head over to tabletopbellhop.com/episode 285, and you'll find everything listed there right in the show notes.
Well, those of you who subscribe to our podcast, YouTube channel, or blog RSS feed would have noticed last week's episode dropped a little bit early.
Yeah, this is something new. We're trying to actually better sync when things get released, as well as being able to interlink our content. So we can do some cool things like embedding the YouTube version on the podcast on our show note page where the audio podcast is there. So you can consume it whichever way you prefer, with the goal being to make our stuff easier to find for everyone.
So going forward, you can expect to find all versions of the Tabletop Bellhop Gaming Podcast dropping at the same time at 3 p.m. on Sunday afternoons.
The Tabletop Bellhop team is here to answer your gaming and game night questions, as well as offer tabletop gaming advice. Tonight, we're here to talk about hosting a board game swap meet or trade day for your local community.
So this is something we actually did recently. We host a number of board game nights in the Windsor, Ontario area, and have been to multiple cons and things like that. But and through the last many years I've been doing this, we have had a couple nights where people traded games. The big one was back when Hugan and Munin was around. We used to do RPG swaps. This was our first dedicated, buying, selling, swapping tabletop game event, a dedicated event just for that at a larger venue. This was a big deal. We had lots of space, and we invited as many people as we could to come out. And overall, I think it was an awesome success. I think it went extremely well. Now, hosting our local board game nights, we often have people come up and say, hey, are you guys ever going to do a trade day? Or will you allow trades here? Or do you ever sell any of your games? And that's what drove us to have this event, is there was demand in our local community. And I have a feeling any community with any size gathering of gamers, there's gamers who have games they want to get rid of. Now, our event, I think we did some great things, and I think we did some things right. And I want to share those with you in case you want to do an event like this yourself. But there were also things we could improve upon on. And that's what we're here to talk about tonight, in the hopes that you could put on a similar event or convince someone else to put it on and give them some tips and tricks.
One of the choices we made was we didn't associate ourselves with a board game store for this event. Yes. This was at a place that, they do technically sell board games. They just have a shelf of stuff that they happen to have for sale. It's not a board game store. And there were definitely some benefits to being able to have that free exchange and not worry about, what is the store getting out of this?
Despite all years of trying to make it better, and I know this isn't just our community, not all the local game stores get along, and they all have customers that prefer one store or over another. So one of the things that's great about an event like this is if you can do it somewhere neutral. Now, for us, that happened to be a place called Hidden Trail Experiences, which is a place that does all kinds of neat stuff like jelly ball and escape rooms, right? It's not a hobby game store. Another suggestion would be to have something like this at a local library or rent a Legion Hall, or possibly like if you've got a coffee shop or something that's big enough that doesn't mind you taking over for the whole day. Walkerville Brewery is somewhere else. We talked about doing something like this, but having an event at a brewery has its own problems.
Yeah, we had thrown away around the idea of Chapter 2, a different brewery in the area that does something similar for a vinyl swap and trade. And we're like, oh, I wonder if they'd let us host a board game swap and trade. But this venue it worked out really well because it was large. There was enough space. I've always wanted to do something in like a Legion, but then we'd have to charge an entry fee because a Legion isn't going to give us a space for free unless maybe we're doing a charity event. And then it's an entirely different thing, you know?
Yeah, and you also get into issues with finances if you are accepting or taking money, or money is changing hands. Some venues may have different rules based on that. There may be, places with liquor licenses may have issues with that sort of thing. You'll have to check your local area and rules, but be aware that if money is changing hands, that may change what venues are and are not available at that.
And then speaking of space, we found an awesome space that's like thematic and has like weapons on the wall and just looks really awesome. If you can find something like that, great. But the main thing you're looking for is you need well lit. You need lots of room for people to walk around, and you need tables for people to put the games on because you don't expect them to carry everything. Do you have anything else to add for venue recommendations? Lots of parking, because we'll get to that one later on what we didn't do right. But also a place where people can park.
And lighting matters. The lighting was okay where we were, but I know not every venue we've ever been to over the years has had great lighting. So that's always a one.
And not only parking, but just identifiability. And because that is one of the slight struggles with the space we have. While there is some parking, it's not the easiest place. If you haven't been there before, you may not know where you're going. And now we did do a few things to help with that. But anything you can do to make sure that people know where they're going, if you just happen to rent the back of a warehouse to do a thing, how are people going to know where that is? So keep that sort of thing in mind.
So throwing that in with one of the things we did right is signage. We have a nice big Tabletop Bellhop banner that Sean positioned outside the door to make it very obvious that if you're looking for the Tabletop Bellhop event, hey, look, there's a big banner in front of a door. It must be there.
So one of the other things I think we did right was we had feedback forms, and I passed them out to everybody, and they could write whatever they wanted on them and shove them all in a box at the end of the day. And it was something I decided to try, and I didn't know how it was going to go over, but we had more than 20, almost 30 people bothered to fill out feedback forms. Awesome. So that's pretty cool, right? And it gave us some ideas on what people liked, what people didn't like, and that was really great. So I'm glad we did that.
Yeah, and I think how we did it is important too, because it's really easy to say, "Hey, give us your feedback," and be open to feedback, because you have to be open to feedback. That's kind of one of the rules. If you aren't open to feedback, you're doing the event for you, not for other people. But if you just say, hey, give us feedback, or hey, go to our website later and write something down there, you're not going to get the same sort of response. Yeah. And so in our particular case, we have another event coming up that has paid tickets. So we were able to offer a raffle for people who filled out forms in order to win a ticket to that paid event. And so that incentivized people to put some information down on the paper. And even if they're only intending on writing their name and email address down to enter a draw, they'll often write a little bit more because they're already writing something. So give people a reason to fill out your feedback forms if you're going to give them feedback forms.
And sticking with the feedback forms, one of the things I think is important to have on a form, if you plan on doing this as a recurring event, is get people's email address or cell phone numbers so you can let them know when the next event is. That was something we made optional, but this way we were able to build a mailing list, which we already have one for all of our local events, but we get to add people to our mailing list so we can tell them when there's the next one and when they can start getting excited. So I think having some way to contact the people, like, do you want to be notified about our next event? Here's a checkbox. Write down your email address. The only problem with that is people's writing is not always the best. So one option is to also have something digital Now, we didn't do this for this event, but we did it for our event at the Summoning, where we had a tablet where people could sign up. And that way we made sure they typed properly.
Yeah, I'm batting about 70% on being able to decipher people's email addresses. And the rest I put in and they immediately bounce back. And I don't think anybody's going through the effort of filling this in to put something nonsensical. I just think I can't make out their handwriting.
Yeah, writing email addresses and the choices that people have made in email addresses can be difficult. And I freely admit that my own email address, I have struggled to make sure I have written clearly enough on certain banking forms and things.
I was looking at one today when I was trying to add some new email addresses that we had gotten, and I was like, is that an underscore or a dash? And Gwen and I were pretty sure it was a dash. And Mo looked at it and thought he was an underscore. And he's like, why don't you enter both? And I'm like, well, I don't just want to send emails out into the void in a spammy fashion. I actually do want to enter what's on this for.
All right, moving on to something else that I think went very well, at least based on the feedback I heard, was suggesting everyone come with at least an idea of a price for all their items. If possible, literally having something priced on them. And that is just to make it so that you're not worrying as much about the haggling and dickering and people grabbing their phones to look up prices. You walk in and I've got a game for $20 and you got a game there for $20 and we want each other's game. We're like, they're both priced $20. Let's just swap.
Yeah. And I mean, I did do that. I suggested ahead of time that people should have things priced before they got there. Most people did. A few didn't. And the few that didn't were like, oh man, I really should have. But even beyond that, what I noticed was the different ways that people price their stuff. And I had priced our stuff with like some nice little discreet garage sale stickers that I knew would come off without hurting the box. That was my main thing. I'm like, don't ruin the box, put prices on everything, right? But they were small and they were on the tops of the boxes and we had lots of games piled up and no one can see them. I walked around, looked at other people's stuff, and some people had sticky notes. Bright, obnoxious sticky notes on the side of each game listing the price. And I went, that's pretty good. Even better, some people had bright, obnoxious pieces of painter's tape with the numbers written on it. And it was just really easy to spot. And again, it's not going to ruin the box. And those being so much easier to look at, I was like, oh, that's a good idea. So I had some sticky notes with me and I started tearing them up and making little mini price tags and sticking them on the sides of my games. And then my games started selling when they weren't before, because who wants to go up and go through my pile to find out? Whereas if you look at it and go, oh, geez, that's only $5. Great. I'm going to take that. Right. So not even just pricing it, but pricing it in a way that people can see it from where they're standing when they're looking at your stuff on the table.
All right. Something else I think we did right was get the word out early.
As long as it's a free event and you're not charging an entry fee, most community calendars will let you list something like a board game trade. There's also like the garage sale sections on Kijiji and Facebook and our local paper. Like I was able to put things in all of those. Now, on some of these, I was not early enough. You need 2 to 3 weeks lead time minimum for a lot of the community calendars and the local radio stations. And then they'll share your event for free. I used to do this stuff when I worked at the Arts Council.
And we've been talking about board game swap meets. And that's fine, but there is a certain expectation of board game swap meets and within the community. And there were people, and we had talked about people selling board games, and we talked about pricing board games. And we got a whole lot of people who were interested in selling their board games, and not as many people interested in swapping board games. Now, we had swaps going on, and that was great. And the people who were there for that, I think, got their money's worth. But the people who were looking to reduce their collection and not bring something else home in return, they were feeling a little sort of underwhelmed, because what we had is a whole lot of people who came with board games and not very many people who came with cash.
I'd say maybe, and we had a really good turnout. There was a lot of people over the day, but I'd say maybe 10% of the people walked in with no games, were just there to buy. Yeah. And that made, I think, some of the people that were sitting there with stacks of games hoping to sell them slightly disappointed. Yeah.
Yeah, I think which we talked about this after the fact, and we think it was kind of the branding of the event by calling it a swap meet board game trade day. We might be better off, but we also don't want to call it a board game sale. So the term we were thinking would probably be better was a board game bazaar was one we talked about.
I like Board Game Bazaar. We did Tabletop Trade Day.
Tabletop Trade
that's
Day.
why we did Tabletop Trade Day. But I mean, people showed up wanting to trade, which is fine.
Yes.
And there's nothing wrong with selling, and there's nothing wrong with trading, but we need to also attract people that want to buy games, or it's not much fun for the people that want to sell them. So going forward this time, I'm going to push it as a board game bazaar and work harder on attracting people that want to come out and buy things.
Yes.
And as well, and we're going to get into this in a minute when we talk about table space, we had room for about 24 people. Without invading into the other areas of Hidden Trail and like taking over parts of the venue, we had room for about 24 people to set up and sell games. And we had maybe a little more than 24 people showed up wanting to sell games. I think in the future, I would have people register saying that they want to come and sell games and reserve a spot, and we would limit it to 24 vendors. And then all of my promotions and everything I'm sending out to community calendars and stuff is telling people to come out and buy games.
Do it more like, your Christmas market and everything. We're like 24 vendors selling board games. Come check it out. Save for the holidays, Yeah,
I think there are areas where talking about it as selling and swapping is vital. Like on our Discord, talking about the selling and talking about what you're going to bring and all the stuff you're bringing to get rid of is vital. But I think the greater marketing outside of our close-knit community is where we really need to sort of double down on getting people with money looking to buy board games.
I also feel bad when people show up wanting to set up and there's no space at that point, because we had enough people, right? Though I did see some people come in with like baskets full of games, and they walked table to table and looked at what they had and said, "Oh, are you interested in trading?" And then we'd show them what they were carrying around, which was a cool way to do it. And I was like, "Do you want a space to set up?" And they're like, No, I just want to walk around and see if anyone wants to trade. And I'm like, "Oh, that works well. Do it."
Now, one of the things we could have done better was more space for people to maneuver and walk around. So we had tables down like the middle of a room. So next time, one of our big things we're going to do is push the tables to the wall to get more people to move around in the middle. Something I think we did okay that could be better is we didn't force the vendors to sit at their table all day. We wanted people to be able to walk around and shop and look at other people's games and not like man a pawn booth or man your booth at a craft fair. We wanted people to be able to walk around. Now, our goal was to have some type of whiteboard or chalkboard or even just an index card where people could write down their name and maybe a cell phone number. So just in case you walk up and go, "Man, that game looks awesome. I'm looking for John," you can ask one of the event organizers, go in the other room and go, "Hey, where's John? I'm looking to buy this." We unfortunately did not have those tags. It was just something that got overlooked that we didn't have on time. But I still think it's a fantastic idea. And I think having a way for people to walk around so that the vendors, even if they're pre-registering for tables, aren't stuck at a spot.
Yeah, it was just something that got lost in the mix. I thought the venue was going to have them, and I think the venue thought I was bringing them. And by the time I got there and realized we didn't have those cards, I was like, "Oh, well, we're running with it." So
I'm horrible with names, so I don't know anybody by name, but I knew who had every table. So if person X walked over and said, "Oh, whose stuff is this?" And I said, "Oh yeah, they're just right over there. They're just checking out the Robotech game over there. I'm sure they'll be back in a second. Just hold on." So we were able to do that because again, the space we were using was reasonably small, and everyone could see everything more or less.
Yeah.
So.
Which does lead me to another, what we did right. And this is something we talk about every board game, every tabletop event we host. You need hosts. You need people to play host. Don't just expect everyone to show up and figure it out on their own. You need people walking around and doing things like, "Hey, can I help you? Oh, you were looking at that. Yeah, Joe's over there looking at this other game." Or, "You know what? This person's away from the table. They're using the washroom, but they'll be back in a minute." You do need someone to play host. You need at least one body to actually kind of manage the event.
We were in like when you walk in, you're in a big room, and then there's another room off to the side. And as the day went on, people would walk in with games, hoping to sell them, into that big room that was full, and just kind of like almost look like they were about to retreat right back out of the door. And you had to grab them and say, "Hey, you know what? There's space in this room over here. There's so much going on. We got a table for you right over here. Come on in."
Yeah, one of the things that we could have done a little better is we originally said the event was going to be from time X until time Y. Don't show up until time X. That's when it all starts.
Doors open
the doors
at
open
11.
at.
Boom.
That, in hindsight, was probably a little bit of a mistake because we had 24 vendors who all needed to get their board games laid out onto tables and ready, and maybe have to throw some prices on or fix some price tags that fell off, and maybe write some stuff on the really wanted board and things like that. In hindsight, we needed to open the door up for anyone vending a little bit sooner to help them get ready in time.
And again, I think if we allow pre-registration, then the people that pre-registered can come in, 15 minutes early and set up, right? So, tell them if you show up at this time, this is when you can get in. There'll be 15 minutes set up. Then we won't have people showing up 15 minutes beforehand, lining up in the parking lot, looking sad with their boxes of giant boxes and carts.
So something else that was an idea of Brett, the owner of the venue, was to have a whiteboard or like a chalkboard or something where people can kind of write down their wants and needs. So if there's a game you're looking for, you can write it down and say, hey, looking for this. Has anyone seen this? And just a way to like communicate with people. This is also a great thing for you organizing the event. If you have a podcast or whatever, you throw a QR code on, and the venue could throw a link to their Discord was part of the original plan. And again, I think this is something we fell down on our first event, but we can mark it better next time. But that whiteboard, from what I understand, actually got used during the event.
Okay, so we had the whiteboards. They were up front. I don't think they were placed in a spot where everyone could really readily see them. I kind of tried to point out to people that they existed. And at first, they just sat there with nothing on them. Then Brent went and wrote on them that he was looking for some certain kids' games. Oh, and then that made someone else go write on it. And then I went and wrote on it, and then someone else wrote on it. It's like once someone saw people on there. So Sean and I were talking about this, how next time we would like precede it, like just make sure there's like, I would go up there and say, hey, I'm looking for this game, and just put it on there so people could be like, oh, that, clearly that's what that's for. Even if they missed it when I'm giving them a lot of information, front loading a lot of information when they walked in, right? Maybe they missed it when I told them about the looking for, or I didn't get that information to everybody. And I think get it higher up so you can really clearly see it at the front of the room. The looking for board was used. We had another board that was supposed to be like cool stuff. If you have something rare and neat and you want people to know it's at your table, put it there. No one felt brave enough to list their stuff on there. I know there was cool stuff there, but I mean, I didn't do it either. So
yeah, that was one. Maybe one of the organizers could be like, I saw cool stuff. Check out Dave. He's got this. Though we were a little worried in advance by having people advertise what they have, that the board would just fill up and everyone would be competing to put stuff. Though that didn't happen. So that one's in our may work, may not work. Try it again pile.
I think the biggest problem with the whiteboards, unfortunately, was visibility. Until you walked to the front of the room, past all of the vendors in the main room, you didn't see them. They weren't there.
Yeah.
And that was, and so finding a better location for them, I think is a real key in order, things that people are looking for should be right up front. It should be, as you walk in, essentially. So I think we need to see if we can find a way to enable that.
Roger was at the event and he said, what whiteboards? See, clearly they were at the front.
Roger was 5 feet away from the whiteboard.
Yeah, the front desk is here, and then to either side of the front desk there are two pillars, and they were hanging on the pillars a little bit down because that's where they were able to go. We would need an easel of some kind or something, I think, to get them in a better position. So one of the things you have to think about is parking and what else might be going on in the area at the same time as your event. And we failed miserably on this one because the place that we were hosting it is in the same building as the Scare House, which is a big haunted house attraction. And it's October. And it was a weekend in October when they had a big event on at the big haunted house. Yes. Where there were policemen outside directing traffic and 1,500 people lined up in the parking lot. So we did not realize that until we were there having the event. And I think that might have scared some people away, because I got to tell you, if I had pulled up and wanted to go there and saw that kind of hullabaloo, I probably wouldn't have gotten out to go find the board game sale. So
now on the plus side, we did have a whole lot of foot traffic who maybe weren't interested in buying games, but had kids and were interested in the concept of games, and did get to see our branding and did get introduced in some way to some of the Tabletop Bellhop concept. So while, yes, it was problematic that people that we wanted to get there couldn't get there, we did have the benefit of a whole lot of extra foot traffic, seeing our sign and our event and being introduced to us that way. So you never know. We may see future down the line benefits from that, but it was a problem on the day.
I don't mind being there where Scare Host is there, but when they have their once a year family friendly event that gets 1,500 people, that's just a bad weekend.
Yeah, the police presence was definitely a detriment to us.
Yes. So now one thing we did encourage people to do that I think went fairly well, and this is going to very much depend on your local community and your online resources, is to generate buzz, vendors, people who were going to sell and trade games, were sharing lists of what they plan to bring. And I think this is something to be encouraged. The best place I think to do it is somewhere like a Discord that you own, but there's also Facebook groups, there's social media and so on. But being able to, I think that got people out, that generated hype. People saw people's games and were like, oh, I want that one and that one and that one. Now we did have people ask for can we get a full price list of everything for sale? I don't think that's manageable. And I think it's unreasonable to expect from an event like this. Maybe if you really want to go above and beyond. But to me, you're almost getting into resale and resale shops and retail at that point. For a trade meet, I don't think you want to go to that point. But advertising what you're bringing ahead of time was a great way to get the community involved ahead of time. And it definitely got people oh, people are bringing real games, or, oh, people are bringing RPGs. I'll bring mine too.
Yeah, I'm glad that people did do it this time, and I really want to focus on encouraging people to share photos and lists of their stuff. It was something that showed up on multiple feedback forms requesting that people do that, and I was like, oh, you didn't even know we had people do that. We just had to be better at directing people to where it's going on. I hesitate at actually producing some kind of list that says, these are the 742 games that will be present at exactly this price, because then what the heck, you have to leave your house. I'm like, just come out.
Come look, right? Yeah, that doesn't encourage browsing and window shopping. I think everyone should highlight, whether it's not a full list of everything you're going to bring. Even we didn't. We had a list and we're like, here's the highlight. Here's some of the stuff we're bringing. Come out to find the rest, right? That's marketing 101. We want to get people in the door.
And Ryan does bring up, and this has been brought up in a number of different locations already, you could just make it a no-ship math trade where no sales take place and everything is managed online in advance. You can, but that is a whole other type of beast that requires a whole lot of everybody's in-depth involvement and software managers to handle everything and admins to handle the lists and deal with problems as they arise. Yes, math trades are great, but they are also a lot of work.
Yes.
Yeah, math trades are super cool, but they're just very complex. And I personally wanted a way to sell games and physically go home with less square footage of games than I started with. So that was my personal reason for being involved in this. I think some other people felt the same.
Yeah, I think a lot of the people actually local, we kind of advertised it that way, right? Here's your chance to thin out your game collection, replace the games you don't play with something new, was kind of our main message for it, which is still going to be our message to our sellers, whereas our message to the buyers is going to be get hot new games cheap, basically. One thing I do want to mention with the mass trade and making lists online and everyone just organizing it on Discord ahead of time, you lose something very important there, and that is the sense of community and camaraderie. The biggest compliments we got on this event wasn't I sold a ton of games, I got awesome games. This was a great community building event. I got to meet local gamers. I got to hang out for 4 hours and talk games. Thank you. So a huge part of this event isn't just the trading of games. It's the impact on the local gaming community and getting a bunch of gamers in one place sharing their hobby together. And just a match trade, you're going to lose all of that.
People were coming up to me and were saying, this was fantastic. I got shoved in a room with a bunch of strangers that all love board games, and we had to make chit chat for 4 hours, and it was awesome. I was like, and I'm like, wow, it's almost like everyone that's here sort of likes board games. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, actually, one of the sort of downfalls of this space, what we had to work with were essentially two rooms, the main entryway to the area and a party room. And that differentiation, that separation between the party room and the main room, I think actually limited a little bit some of the interactions that we could have had if we had been in a singular larger common space or if we'd had a shared common space in the middle to work with or something. I think there are potentially ways, and I think our plans for how we're going to arrange the tables next may actually go a long way to enabling that. But there's definitely making community space is an important part of these events. Yes, we all want to sell some games, and we want to get more games, and we want to achieve the transactional aspects of it. But there's more to it than that, and enabling that community involvement.
And I'm not trying to bash on math trades at all. And honestly, like, here's a huge list of my games for sale. That's what Facebook Marketplace is for. That's what Kijiji, that's what local Discord servers with buy and sell groups. And they're fantastic for that. They're great for that. They're super accessible. You don't need to leave the house. People will drop off games at your door. And I fully get that. And I think those have a place. But part of this is the getting together in person, the social aspect, getting together with other gamers, plus the ability to see, touch, and feel the games, which is something you don't always get when you're just looking at pictures.
Yeah, there's definitely something to be said about understanding the quality of a game. I think most board gamers like to really take some pride in how they're keeping their board games and the state of the game and things like that. But it's always nicer if you can, lift the box lid and take a look and go, oh, yeah, okay, look, this looks awesome. You did a great job of maintaining this. Or, oh, my God, you even have all the cards sleeved or whatever it might be. You painted the miniatures. Things like that can make a big difference in person versus even if there are pictures of all the product online.
Now, another thing I think we did right is we basically advertised this as a board game event. We're perfectly cool with people doing role-playing games, but we tried to avoid trading card games because a trading card game swap is a very different beast than most other board games or tabletop games. I strongly recommend, if you do have a community for a trading card game, have trading card game days. Part of this event was inspired by the Pokemon Trade Day that they have at Hidden Trail and how popular that is, with hundreds of vendors showing up. So a lot bigger than what we did. But I think limiting it to, that's a certain style of game is an advantage, so that you have people who are in the same bulwark trying to trade and sell and buy the same types of things.
And board gamers need a lot of more space than a Pokemon binder. Then we didn't even talk about how we divided up the tables. All we did was take out painter's tape and mark out squares on the table. So we turned every 8-foot table into like three spots, so that when people came in, you just got a square. And I said, everyone gets one square, and then if there's space later in the day, you can spread out. Well, there was enough for it all filled in. And then we had to go have the owner find some tables in the back so we could throw another one out, because we had a lot of people show up.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so having those divided into squares, that was something that seemed to work well.
Now, another thing that's nice about our venue, and if you can find this, great for you, is a place that can expand. We'll probably stick with 24 sellers for the next case, but if we're getting enough people out, there are other rooms at the venue that we can put tables in. I know, again, going back to their Pokemon events, that they use the archery, the video archery room as a vendor hall as well, and we could also spread into that area. So you can find somewhere like that. Like, I don't know how to say find a venue like that, but if you can, that is an awesome thing to be able to grow and shrink your event.
In the chat room, I'm seeing suggestions to make posters or place promotional materials at local game stores. And yes, that is definitely something that I missed out on that we could be doing. Sharing images on Discord ahead of time, which we did do, and I would like to focus on more.
Have a space for people planning to attend the event, people who attended the event, to talk to each other and share their experiences, whatever that happens to be. Discord, in my opinion, is a perfect place for something like that. Perhaps we might even eventually ourselves set up a separate Discord server just for board game swap meets or board game bazaars. I think having a place like that is important. We get a lot of feedback after our events, like, hey, I was there, here's what I sold, and here's what I liked, or here's what I'm going to bring next time. And having a place for people to do that, I think, is important.
I think there was someone that chimed in that they had already tried one of their games from the swap meet the other day. So that was awesome. And Ryan is asking, so how successful was the event for your own game sales? I think I sold about 14 games. Yeah. But the problem is they were all physically small. I needed more square footage to leave.
Yeah, we need to get the new gamers who are new to the hobby and want to play some classics. That's the market for what we're trying to get rid of need to market to, I think. and big fancy Kickstarter games we've never played. We got one of those too. Do we have anything else from the chat room? I saw quite a few asks pop up as we were talking.
Yeah, the only other one is King Kong used a QR code posted everywhere, linked to an online feedback form, so people could fill out on their phones. That's great. It's really hit and miss with QR codes, though. People love them and people hate them, and it's kind of either way. If possible, a paper feedback form is almost always going to get you a better response and better throughput especially for a smaller event that doesn't already have an online component. Like if you're doing online registration for a con, then people are used to going online for stuff, and that's different. But for a smaller event in particular, I go old school. It works.
So I still recommend a QR code for newsletter signups just because of that hit rate of reading people's email addresses. That's separate. That's not for all feedback. Just a nice, simple, scan here, type in your email address, submit, done. All right. So our first board game swap meet, I think, went really well. Sadly, I couldn't be there myself with my bad back. But all the feedback we got was extremely positive. I think the biggest one was thanks for hosting this event. We got told a lot. And when are you going to do it again? So people are looking forward to another one of these. One of the things we haven't talked about is frequency, because we don't know yet. We've talked about once a month. That seems pretty frequent to me, and you might see all the same games, but then I kind of want to strike while the iron's hot here to get a different group of people out. Maybe once you've done it a few times, it'll be once a quarter, but I don't know. What I do have to say is I love the feedback we got. It was awesome, because now we can just make our next one better. Now, if you've hosted events like this, some kind of trade day, swap meet, whatever, tabletop sale, I want to know how it went and what lessons you learned. This is our first time doing something this big. And while I think we made some mistakes, we also did some things right. But we're not very experienced at this. So maybe you know more about this than we do. And I would love to hear any tips you have to help improve our next Board Game Bazaar, as well as all our fans.
Let us know by sending off an email to mo@tabletopbellhop.com, leaving a comment, reply, or posting on our Discord server at discord.tabletopbellhop.com. Welcome to the Bellhop's Tabletop, where we talk about the games we've been playing and other cool stuff going on.
So at first, I want to talk a bit about our first ever ProtoWIN Game Designer Night, which just happened yesterday. This is the first time we tried running an event like this in Windsor. It's a type of event that you tend to see in bigger cities. And they're game designer nights, or nights for people to get together, for game designers to show off their games, for people to play test games and give feedback, and for their designers to network. There's a huge convention called Proto Spiel, and there are different proto events around the world. And we actually asked to use the name to make sure it was cool for those events. So we wanted to see if there's a big enough community in Windsor to handle something like this. And so we hosted our first event, like I said, was just yesterday, and I think it went extremely well. We had over 20 people show up, which is pretty awesome. The problem we did have, though, is we only had one game designer there. So it was awesome because Roger Malash of Roger Dodger Games showed up, and he was there with his wife. And thankfully, he has multiple work in progress games and was able to accommodate pretty much everyone was there. Everyone was there, got to play at least one game, which is pretty awesome. I think it was a really neat event. I think it was worth having. And every single person that went had very positive things to say about it and are excited to do it again. We just need to find a way to get more game designers out.
So yes, this was a pleasant change where we, as the hosts, didn't actually have to teach or work the event so much as most game nights. We got a chance to play up-and-coming designers' games.
Yeah, which was quite fun.
That was great. I wasn't on the hook for teaching games. Roger and his wife even ended up stepping up and teaching games because his games were the only ones there, right? But we actually got to sit down and play and only had to say hello and greet people, and I didn't have to teach any games. That is the best evening.
Yeah, basically we got to play host. Deanna and Sean jumped into games right away. I stayed out thinking I want to greet everyone who shows up, and well, some people did show up. And it was nice. I didn't have to leave an in-progress game to say hi. So I still recommend everyone host any event, have a host present. But it was cool. So we actually we actually got to play some play testing games, or some unreleased games, some games in play testing, including one that actually is available. The first game that got set up at the beginning of the night was Nova Raiders. And now, Deanna, you played in that game along with Gwen and some other local gamers. What do you think of Nova Raiders?
I really enjoyed it. You are space raiders, flying ships around, picking up energy, hijacking other ships to steal their energy, trying to bring energy back to your home port and collect it in sets. You can only move in like set rings, and then there's jump gates. There's a lot I liked here. It was pretty polished. Like, I was playing a prototype, but it was a game, a real game. Honestly, like, some of the stuff we've had mailed to us over the years was of far less finished caliber than this game that I sat down to play. There was some neat things going on with an ever-expanding star that eventually, at endgame trigger, goes supernova. And as the star expands, it takes over the board, constricting the space you have left to move in. And it's also card-driven movement with dual-use cards. Actually, they're sort of trio-use cards. Where each card has a top power or a bottom power to choose from, but also has arrows in the center. And you lay the cards out, an action card, and then an arrow card bridging to your next action, an action card, an arrow card for a bridge, etc., in a repeating pattern. And that just leads to some cool decision points, because you're trying to decide for each card, you're going to play it one of three ways, right? And there's also upgrade cards, which can do both. They can be a bridge between actions and an action you can perform, but in the case of upgrades, you need to have energy to set off the action. And I'm making it sound much more complicated than it was, because this was just a slick, simple game. I'm probably going too in-depth here anyway for something that you can't go out and buy, but it was neat. I had fun playing it. Everyone at the table enjoyed themselves, and we also really enjoyed the playtesting aspects, like giving feedback. We had Roger's wife, Lori, who was the one who taught us the game, furiously taking down notes at the end, and that was fun. Like, even just getting to hear the other players' insights, that was part of the cool experience. I had a super fun playtesting experience. It was everything I wanted from a game designer night.
Yeah, it was awesome. Like, this was the first thing that happened at the event. Like, immediately, while Roger was originally teaching the game before his wife took over, he was getting feedback from players. I'm like, well, I don't quite understand this. What's this mean? What's that mean? And it was just awesome to see. I don't know how to word it, but like, it just worked. Like, everyone just fell into their roles automatically. The game designers were teaching and the playtesters were offering feedback. It didn't require any coaching, which I think was awesome to see. Now, this game's a nice light game, like 45-minute play time on that lighter family weight, from what I understand.
And
Yes,
while
no?
Dee was playing Nova Raiders, I got to try the latest iteration of Roger's spider game, Arachnid. Now, we originally played this, going back 3 or more years ago, on Tabletop Simulator, possibly back during the Plague days. So this is a new revised version of that. But there were definitely some familiar aspects of it, despite being an actual physical game now, as opposed to the Tabletop Simulator one. I dropped in with 4 university students who'd come in, recommended, I think, by Gwen, to drop by. And now, unfortunately, this is when things started getting a lot more crowded, and we realized we only had one designer. So Roger was pulled in a couple of too many directions. And so I don't think the teach went as smoothly as he might have liked. This is a heavier weight game than Nova Raiders as well, where you are playing a nest of spiders against 3 other nests of spiders. Then it takes place in the ceiling of a military special research lab. And there are all these strange bug critters that keep coming into the nest that you can eat for food, and you can attack other spiders. And you're basically trying to spread your web and take over the most area and be the most successful spider family in the lab. Which is pretty straightforward, but there are a lot of neat and interesting things going on. The movement cards that he's got are that with unlockable spaces, so you slowly become more powerful throughout. There's a little bit of a blood rage, sort of, you always want to get into combat, because even if you lose, you're still getting something out of it, action going on. So there's a lot to this game. I do hope that when it comes out again, he can focus a little more on the teach and not be pulled in as many directions, because again, this one definitely does benefit from a good solid teach. The setup for it is also rather significant. There's a lot of moving pieces in the game. There are dice and tokens and spiders and webs and things. So if it's all set up and he can perform a great teach, it makes it easier for everyone. We hesitated at one point. We wanted to start fighting between spiders, but Roger was so busy we didn't want to pull him over to have him teach us because he was trying to teach another game. So we kind of danced around each other, not fighting until we could get a hold of Roger.
So what I think we need to do if multiple people are playing Roger's games next time, we're have to do the blind play test where Roger just gives you the QR code for the rule book and you're stuck. You can't ask him any questions, and then figure it out on your own. Later in the night, both Deanna and I sat down and played some 2-player games of La Casa, which was previously known as La Figmiglia. We Have a Situation. This is Roger's first actual published game. This is a euchre-like trick taker with a mob theme. The basic game follows pretty standard trick-taking rules, including euchre-like scoring and where you can set the trump or you can refuse it. It's very euchre-like. But there's this situation deck that you draw from each round that actually changes up what you're going to score. So like one of the situations is basically you were trying to take the most tricks, right? It's pretty standard. But then another round, we were trying to collect the most minions, which was the lowest numbered cards. Another one, all that mattered was who took the mangia cake, which is the only 0 card in the deck. Another one, there was a certain number of card 4. We didn't want to take tricks with 4s. And it was kind of neat because it was like trick taking combined with some of the puzzle elements we've seen in games like The Crew or Lord of the Rings, but there's no campaign or anything like that. You just flipped up a card and played it. Now, I know Gwen and her friends from university, well, I shouldn't say friends because some of them were brand new. Gwen and the people from the university who came out played this like most of the night. Like they played round after round after round of it and only quit because they ran out of room on their scorecards. So this one seems to be a really solid game. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very nice. I like trick taking. You know that. Anyone who listens to the podcast knows all 3 of us are big trick taking fans. And I liked it because it was very traditional, but those cards really changed up each round.
I think she said they ran out of situation cards. Like they played through each and every possible one. Yeah. I enjoyed this game, but I'm not sure. Like I was talking this over with Mo last night, and I know he disagrees with me, but I almost felt like Roger has 2 games here, both with really strong euchre roots. And one is a 1 to 2 player trick taker where you play through situations. And then separately, there's this neat 3 or 4 player trick taker where you play through situations. And I felt like you could retheme one of them to say fantasy and have folks going off on quests and leave the other one being your mafia one. And that would be neat. I don't know. It got my brain whirring. There aren't many solo trick taker options out there that I'm aware of. So I thought that was neat, though I didn't try it solo yet, but.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, this one's actually published. You can get it through the Game Crafter. If you just search Roger Game Crafter La Casa, you'll find it. And I'll also be sure to drop a link into the show notes. Now, I know Roger does apologize for the cost through the Game Crafter and their shipping rates, but that's not something he can control. I think it's worth checking out. If you like trick-taking games, I think you would enjoy this.
So overall, the game designer night thing, I thought it was pretty awesome. Like it just, we had such a good vibe in the place, and everyone that was there seemed like they were just having a great time. I sat out for a while because I had played a game and there weren't other games to play. And just the entire table there was a table full with 2 different games being played. And everyone was just laughing and enjoying themselves, and like just such a good vibe. I think everyone that came out got to play multiple games and had a good time. And I think it was a win, and I can't wait to do it again. Like I would like to see more designers come out. Yes. I was disappointed that some people that said they were going to be there didn't show up, but that's beyond our control. But yeah, so I would say it was a win, and I want to do it again.
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway here is designers who may have been in the area and didn't come out to this really lost out.
You missed out.
This was a fantastic opportunity to get a lot of different eyes on your games. I think Roger has gotten a ton of super helpful feedback, and if you weren't there with your game, you didn't get any of that. I'm only hoping that because we didn't have the designer turnout, we can still manage to bring people back again for the next one, and they don't think that, oh well, if no designers are going to be there, we won't.
And like people had their playtester hats on, like they were giving thoughtful input.
Yes.
It was super cool.
Yeah, and honestly, you had a market right there if you do have a published game. So that's one of the things I do. I think this provided a better opportunity. I was honest. I'll be honest. I thought we were going to have more designers and playtesters, that we were going to have a hard time getting local gamers out playing games they can't buy, they can't get. I thought that was what we were going to have to sell to people, and it ends up, no, we had that. We had that in spades. We had plenty of people. We need to get the designers out to show off their games. So, hey, anyone in the Windsor-Detroit area, like we honestly had someone offer to drive 7 hours to check this out. And I need to write them. I haven't done it yet, and say, hey, if you had 20 people ready to play test your games, would that be worth your time? And I have a feeling they're going to say yes. To be able to get that direct feedback so easily right then and there, I think is invaluable. Like I said, I'm shocked we didn't get more. So we need more game designers. So if you're a local game designer, be excited for our next event. I think it's going to be great. And from what I got out of the playtesters, I don't even think they'd be disappointed if they came back and it was just Roger again. Like, I honestly don't. I didn't get the feeling that everyone was like, oh, I tried that game, I don't want to try it again. I think the people we did get would come back. All right. The other thing that happened this week, and this was over multiple plays on different days, is we have cracked over the massive behemoth that is Vantage from Stonemaier Games. And I'm calling it a massive behemoth because I think it's the heaviest game in my collection, outweighing Gloomhaven, despite being in a much smaller box. And that is for containing something like, and I'm making this number up, 2,000 cards, something like that, with some wooden components and like 5 or 6, no, there's at least 6 books, 7 books, 8 books. I think there's at least 8 books in there.
And maybe some lead bricks in the bottom.
Maybe some lead bricks, yeah. Yeah, toss some metal coins in there and it's going to break my game table. This is Vantage. This is the hottest thing right now from Stonemaier Games. There's a lot of people talking about this, so we're kind of jumping in on the pile of people talking about Vantage right now. So before I say anything else, and I'm not going to say a lot tonight, I just want to say we are going to do really, really good job of not spoiling anything. Anything we do mention is going to be stuff you learn from the rule book or in the first few moments of play. So first off, what is Vantage for those of you who don't know? So this is a sci-fi game where you're on a ship and you're investigating a planet after getting like a distress call, basically an odd message. Something goes wrong, your ship explodes. The players all manage to escape an escape pod at the last minute, but you all land in different parts of this strange planet. I have no idea how big this planet really is, but it's represented by about 2,000 cards. All you get is who your character is and some basic abilities, and you get this like tarot-sized card that goes sideways that gives you your vantage, what your point of view is. And what this immediately makes me think of is No Man's Sky, the video game where you crash landed on a planet and there you are, here you are in front of you, look around, explore, and do things. And that's what it is, except this is much more populated than any planet I've ever seen in No Man's Sky. You can do what you want. You are presented with a single mission randomly generated at the beginning. There's 21, I think, included in the box. But these missions are like build a shelter. Like they're not the definite step-by-step goals. There's one that's like level up your character, improve yourself, which the design goal is swap your card for another. And you're like, I don't even know what that means when you start off. You can work on your mission if you want, or you can just explore and do stuff. And while exploring, you'll get quests, and then you might find a destiny, and there's various ways for the game to end. And what's fascinating to me is you hear this and you're like, oh, big campaign game, another Gloomhaven, another 10,000 hour game. Oh man, I need the same group and I got to put aside Friday nights to play. No, none of that's here. Vantage is not a campaign game. Each time you play, you're just a different crew, landing in different spots. But you are freely allowed, like, I don't know how they ban you from doing this, but you are allowed to use the knowledge of past plays to help guide your current game. And there's this form of iteration where the more you explore the world and the more you learn, the better you're able to complete those missions and to complete the goals and to do things. But then you could just wander. Like the default, first time you play the game, the recommendation, again, I'm not spoiling this because it's right in the rule book, is just play till you fill your grid. Don't even try your mission. Just play until one player fills their grid and explore, walk around, check things out. Now, the way all this works is fascinating. It's kind of like a Which Way book. I know a lot of people didn't play them, but what this reminds me the most of is the Coded Chronicles series of games from the Op. It's very similar to that. And there's also aspects of Tales of the Arabian Nights. You get your Vantage. There's a bunch of stuff on the card. There's lots of art. There's lots of interesting things. And then you have a list of actions you can take that fall under 6 different types. And I don't remember the types, but it's like look, interact, overcome, whatever. You pick which one you want to do. The player to your left grabs the appropriate book, reads out the thing. You're going to make a check. You roll some dice to see what the cost of your action is. This part's neat. You'll never fail. If you choose pick the chest, you're going to pick the chest. You can't fail. You just have to find out what it costs you. It might cost you time, health, or morale. Then you open the chest. And then you might get presented more actions, and you move and wander and do these things and pick up cards and add inventory. And it is just so fascinating and unique and different. Many people are calling this their game of the year and the most unique board game they've ever played. I personally think none of those people have played Coded Chronicles or Tales of the Arabian Nights. I do think they're doing some awesome, fantastic new stuff here, but it's not totally unfamiliar, at least to us.
This feels different than Coded Chronicles to me. I don't know. The game is just so unique. It's a pure sandbox exploration. Like, this isn't a game; it's an experience, and so much of the fun is in the act of discovery. Like, I really have to rein myself in because I want to shout out all the neat things we found and all the like all the cool interactions that we had while playing this game, but I very much do not want to ruin the amazing feeling of discovery, that is the point to this game to me, right? And that leaves me with not much to say other than I found it striking, given that you begin each game in the exact same state, how different the second game was. Like, I've only played once, but Mo had a second game with our kids, and I was in another room observing what was going on, and it was strikingly different than the first game where Mo and Sean and I played. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, the weird and different vibe of this game is what Mo said there. It's not a campaign game, but your actions do sort of impact the world because knowledge carries over. So the fact that I have done X in Y location is something we all know, and something that someone else is not going to do again there because it doesn't work. And we all know that. So if you happen to end up there again, you have learned. That will change how you interact with the world around you.
Yes.
And that is what makes this such a really interesting game. Now, we discovered at the end of our first play that there is a what they call a progressive web app that allows you to sort of bypass using the actual physical books. Did you use that in your play? Because I think it felt like something we wish we'd used after our play.
Yeah, don't touch the books. Anyone, like, read the rule book, because I think that's it. The app's really great as a reference, but like the storybooks, just you don't need those. Sorry, Jamie. The web version, I can't remember what it is. It's not an app. It's just like a web page you go to and it just works. Has all of the books and all the entries, and it's amazing for a few reasons. One of them being it doesn't spoil anything. So any which way book, there's always the chance you're going to go to the wrong passage, read the wrong passage, see something you didn't want to see, spoil something for your next play. That'll never happen with the app. You put in yellow 247 and it grays out everything except for the thing you're supposed to see and read out loud to the other player. And only until you tap does it show you the rest. And even then, if there's branching paths or options, they don't show up until you tap. So even better. And the second reason is if you're playing solo, you're not spoiling anything, because currently if you play solo, you're looking up the thing in the book and you have to I only want to look at the bold, and you're going to see something else. This completely hides all the information until you tap on it. The other thing, and this is something I thought Deanna might mention, but she can talk about now, is it is much more readable and in larger font. And well, I'm sure it depends on your device, but it is just a much more accessible way than reading the small text in the book. The only thing I wish the app did do is had a copy of every single card. I would greatly appreciate that. If I could put in a card number and see a blown up version of every card, that would be awesome.
I struggled a bit with, I honestly think they didn't go with a bad font choice. It's not even super small. We were playing it in a place that had lousy lighting. I think that was a large part of the issue. But I did struggle with reading the book to the point that I was just like, I don't read. I just sit here and the two of you can read at me and we'll play together. So the app solves that problem, and that is brilliant.
Now, the other thing the app does is it has all of the errata, because unfortunately, with a game with 2,000 cards and a ridiculous amount of text, some errors did slip through. For those of you who don't have the app, Jamie already has an errata pack up for sale on his website. It's only $1. There is shipping on top of that, though, and I don't know what the shipping is depending on where you're at. But if you use the app, you don't need that. The app has already integrated all of the errata on all the cards. Now, you can also find an errata list online, and honestly, it's not that bad. It's only about 10 or 12 cards that need to be fixed. Maybe it's gotten to be more since I last looked, but the app takes apart from that. Like, I'm sorry, but one big part of this game I'm going to be leaving in the box of those books, except for the back of the one book and the back of the other book that you need at the start of every game.
And I think, sorry, Sean.
Yeah, there are a few upgrades available on the Stonemaier website. Interestingly, one of them is just a grid. It's a way to hold your cards in the grid that you will be creating. And at first I thought, oh, that's kind of silly. And I'm like, no, actually, that would actually be handy. And they're all color coded according to player colors. And I'm like, I kind of want that. I mean, I know we're just reviewing this, so we'll never play it again, and I won't get the enjoyment out of this game that I would probably like to make it worthwhile. But I'm like, no, if I was just a gamer and had this game, I would almost certainly buy that, and probably the skill tokens as well.
Yeah. And those, from what I understand, if you kickstarted the game, you got those already. So a lot of people playing this right now already have those. But they are sold separately for those that missed out.
There are metal coins, but I don't like those as much. The coins in this game are weird anyway.
Yeah, I happened to see those dual layered boards on Amazon earlier today, and I was like, I want those for no good reason. So I know where you're coming from, Sean. I think the only other thing worth mentioning about Vantage is just how much our kids loved it. Like, our teenage kids, for the youngest, she's 15. Like, we're talking giddy levels of excitement. She was bouncing, and they were just both super psyched up after their game, because I checked in to ask how they liked it, and they were, just giddy. And I don't think they went to sleep that night after playing it, because they were both in their room still talking it out like an hour later, and I had to go be like, shh, guys, go to bed.
Yeah, this is one that'll be interesting. I think I may bring it out to some of our public play events to let other people experience it. But it's definitely a lot of cards. It won't be out there tomorrow for anyone in our chat room. We're sticking to horror Halloween themed games, and while there are some scary things in this game, I wouldn't call it a horror game, at least not as far as we've seen so far.
You know what? I will say that's a good point, though. This is not the kind of game where anything's ruined. We can pass it on to someone else to play it and experience it. Yeah.
Yeah, this is, I said, it's not a campaign game. It's not a legacy game. It's not, technically, there's one sealed pack of cards that we've opened, but you can put the cards back in. We're going to save the rest for Vantage. I considered reviewing it here because we don't want to spoil anything. And I don't know how much more we can say without spoiling anything to put into a review. But the thing is, I need to find out what our thoughts are and the feeling of the game is with more plays. I will say for a 1 and done, it was fantastic. For a 2 and done, it was fantastic. Playing it with a different group was fascinating to see. But I am slightly worried that once you start seeing repetition, and if you play this game enough, like, the world is huge, but it's only so big. In the 2 games we played, 2 players ended up overlapping the same area. Gwen was exploring the same area Sean was exploring, even though they ended up at different landing points. So the world, you will find some overlap. And what I need to figure out is if it's going to become less enjoyable. Like, if you are like, I found the thing that I ran away from. Oh, there's the thing I ran away from again. Or I get this awesome reward if I do this. Well, yeah, of course, if I go here, I'm going to do the awesome reward and get it every time. Or will it be more interesting? Like, last time I ran away. Well, this time, instead of getting the awesome reward, let's try this. Maybe that'll keep it interesting. And that's what we need to figure out. And that's why we didn't do a full review right now tonight. We basically shared our thoughts on the game, but we need to know if that feeling changes over time. Sean, I remember, was like, yeah, it was neat. It would be better as a computer game. And I know once we're talking about it here on the show, before we started playing, he's like, I want to play Vantage again. And he said nothing about wanting it to be a computer game tonight. So it definitely seems to have won him over.
All right. Well, that's what's happened at our tables lately. What about you? What's been on your table? Reach out to us at Discord at tabletopbellhop.com/Discord and get involved in our what you've been playing lately area there. We love Land vs. Sea from Good Games Publishing. That's the hexagonal tile laying game where you're trying to complete an area of land or sea or both, depending on what team you're on. Well, it just got better.
Yeah, this year, Good Games Publishing released Land vs. Sea Uncharted, the first expansion for Land vs. Sea that they were cool enough to give us a pre-release copy of back at Gamma Expo.
Uncharted is a modular expansion for Land vs. Sea that includes 5 different things you can add into your games of Land vs. Sea. Each module can be used on its own or combined, and while they can all pretty much be mixed and matched with the existing gameplay modes, some of them do require you to use things like the waypoints.
This expansion comes in a smaller box than the original, and the component quality is good and matches what you get in the original. You can't tell the tile apart from the originals except for a small icon on them, and the rulebook is clear and concise.
So the new tiles feature the same style of whimsical artwork as the base game, which is both good and bad. Good because they look cool, and bad because the tiles are very busy, an issue we did identify in our review of the original game that does carry over to this expansion.
One other concern is that while you can fit everything from the expansion into the base game box, it won't be organized as well as the original, as all the tiles are not going to fit in the trough for them. And you have to get creative and store some things underneath the trough or remove the trough. It's just not ideal.
And the problem is the score track is on the trough, so you don't really want to remove it, because otherwise this game would just be in baggies for me.
So up next, we're going to talk about each module in Land vs. Sea Uncharted, one at a time, giving you an overview of what it adds, sharing our thoughts as we go. Then we'll wrap up with some overall thoughts on our experience combining them in different ways. So the most notable addition to Land vs. Sea Uncharted are 2 large, 2-sided starting tiles. These are 4 hexes large and are meant to replace the original starting hex. Some of the sides of these tiles feature icons only used in other Uncharted expansions, but they can be used in any game, just ignoring the icons that don't apply, just like you do with the coral and mountains in the original.
Now, to me, these are great additions to the game, and at this point, I would never play without them, even when teaching a new player. They give you scoring options right on turn 1, as well as giving all players a bit of direction that's something to build on. And they kickstart the game and just make it more interesting from turn 1.
Now, sticking with new tiles, there are 2 new 2-sided single terrain type hexes. Now, when you make a ring of tiles, you get to choose between using the tile from the base game or one of these new tiles. While not worth as many bonus points as the original, the new tiles have features on them like double trade routes or cities.
So these are cool. They're most useful if you're using the other modules in Uncharted. Like if you're using trade routes, you're going to want to put in the tile that gives you double camels or double ships. Or if you're using cities, you're going to want to use the tile with the cities. So they're mostly useful depending on what other scoring module you're using. But honestly, I think the best part, though, is now there's a reason to do more than one ring. Because before there was always a competition over that one tile and trying to deke out your opponent or surprise them by doing a double move that lets you complete it. Well, now you can do that up to 3 times. And I think that's the best addition of having these new tiles is there's now more reason to do those full enclosures than you had in the original game.
Well, next we have bandits and pirates. These are a new feature found on a few of the new tiles in the Uncharted expansion. You place these next to an existing trade route to score points equal to the size of that route, with bandits raiding caravans and pirates raiding ships.
I expected this one to have more impact on play. I think there may only be 1 bandit and 1 pirate in the deck, and they definitely don't come up every game. So to me, this is sure, why not use these rules kind of thing? Where they are most useful is in a 3-player game, as it's a new way for the cartographer to score points on things that the other players do.
Well, next let's talk about cities. Quite a few of the new tiles feature cities on them. They're always bordering both land and sea on their tiles. When you complete a feature that includes a city touching it, you score double bonus points, so double X's on all the tiles in the completed feature.
So cities are the biggest new thing, like the biggest change to the game, the biggest impact once you're using these. This is the kind of, to me, the big thing in Uncharted. Using them really ups the decision space of the game, the amount of math, and honestly, the amount of analysis paralysis. With them in play, you really have to watch the number of X's, the number of bonus X's that you're placing, as a section with a city will often be worth more points in those bonus X's than it is when just tile points for playing them, which really encourages players to complete their opponent's features just to get those bonus points. It makes the game much more cutthroat and punishing in a way. This makes an even bigger impact, though, when you're playing with 3 players. Once you play with 3 players, the cartographer's already trying to score those bonus points. Now they're worth double when there's a city there. And honestly, I'm at the point now where if I am playing 3 players with a cartographer, I want this expansion. To me, it felt like it better balanced the 3-player version of Land versus Sea. Now, when playing with only 2 people or 4, I'm going to put this in when I want a longer, thinkier game, if I want a more involved experience, if I want to sit down and play a game versus playing more casually.
Yeah, I agree. This definitely adds to the potential AP, but I love that decision point, though. So for me, the trade-off is worth it. I love that feeling where you end up wanting to finish off an opponent's space. And of course, there's something that needs to be weighed carefully to make sure you're not giving your opponent more than you're getting, hence the AP, but I kind of love it.
Well, the last optional module in Land vs. Sea Uncharted are the menhirs. You will find these rocks on a number of tiles. When you place a tile with a menhir so that it's in direct line with another tile already played with a menhir, you score all of the bonus points on the tiles in the line between the 2 stones. In addition, if you complete a path between 2 existing menhirs, you also score these points. With clever placement, you can even connect multiple menhirs at once.
Something about this one I just like. It's just kind of fun and neat. And I'm like, oh, I like what this adds to this game. It adds something new without adding a lot of additional complexity. You're not like placing menhirs to steal them from other players. There's none of that. Well, if I close this off, I get this many points, you get that many points. You're just getting bonus points for putting a stone in the right place. I like that. You just draw one, make sure, find the best connection on the map and play it. Now, yes, once the board's getting full, there might be some AP here trying to figure out where that best place to place is. And honestly, there's enough in the deck. There's a surprisingly large number of these in there. And what I like about there being so many is I've yet to see it come out where it's like, you got all the men here, so you won. There seem to be well mixed in with the other tiles, and everything in this game is 2-sided anyway, so there's not always going to come up. I don't feel the need, like not every game needs menhirs, but like put them in, they're fun. And this is the one that I think I would toss in with a brand new player who's just playing the base game. Like, we're going to throw this in as this cool bonus scoring.
See, I struggled with this one. Something about tracking the menhir lines just broke my brain. I had a really hard time tracing out the lines, and I think at least partially it was a vision thing. So I'm sort of on the fence. I don't hate this module, but I didn't love it either. I also found with our AP-prone kid that placing menhirs was, I could go make a sandwich in between her deciding where she was going to place a menhir, so that was less fun than it could have been.
All right, so what about mixing and matching these different expansion components?
So I kind of wanted to be like, oh, if you combine these two, it works really well, or here's our favorite combination, but they all just kind of work with each other. Like they work with menhirs works fine with cities, and cities works fine with the raiders, and it all just kind of works. The one thing I did notice though was the starting tiles. Your new starting tiles, a big part of them is they have the new features that are in these expansions. They have menhirs on them, and they have cities, and they have these new things. So or they have multiple caravans on them already. So I found it a little annoying to use the new starting tiles without the added modules when showing it to people, because they're like, well, what about this? What's this do? Oh, we're not using that this game. Because you're not going to care that there's a city there if you're using the city rules. But again, that's the same as the main game when you're teaching it to new people. Like, ignore the coral, ignore the mountains, ignore this, ignore that, because we're not using those rules. Don't worry about the pirate ships. They don't mean anything. That'll matter later. I just found everything just like played well with everything else. It's just a matter of what you ignore and what you don't. The one thing is just make sure you're extra clear at the beginning of the game what scoring you are using. And thankfully, just like the base game, they include a number of tiles that show a summary of how to score all of these. So just pay attention to which ones you're using and make sure everyone playing knows what you're scoring and what you're not. So you know what to ignore and what you need to pay attention to.
So this has added a lot to the game. What is that? What are the results of adding so much different things to this game?
Yeah, so here's where the combinations do matter and how I do and don't think they mix well together. What it is each thing adds something. And every little piece you add adds a level of complexity and difficulty to the game and makes the game longer with more analysis paralysis. And we've talked quite a bit recently about board game weight increases the weight of the game. Now, some more than others. So the big thing about combining them is if you throw them all in there, expect to double the original game's playtime, if not triple it. And every one you're adding is adding to that complexity and decision space and making the game heavier. So it's not even as amount of these two work best together, but how much depth do you want to throw into one game? Because our favorite thing about Land versus Sea, well, not our favorite thing, there's one other thing I like a little better, but one of our favorite things about Land versus Sea was how quick it is to get to the table, teach and play. You're like, look, you're playing land, you're playing sea, you're just trying to close these things in. And you can play a game in like 15 minutes to half an hour without any of the optional scoring rules. Well, once you throw this expansion in, even by just adding one of these modules, you're turning a nice, quick, light game into something bigger and longer. Even just adding the new tiles and not using any of the new scoring, you're increasing the game length significantly. Like with 2 players, you're looking at on average 12 more turns in a 2-player game. That's 12 more back and forth of placing tiles. That's a significant amount of time. And then once you're actually adding the scoring, there's all the new decisions and the options and scoring systems and the amount of math you're going to do on the fly, trying to figure out where to place your men here while your opponent goes and makes a sandwich. The biggest thing this expansion does, and even the publisher has admitted it, is turned Land versus Sea from a light game to a medium weight strategy game. And that is not going to be for everyone.
No, I agree. And I honestly can't decide if this is a fault or a feature, but it definitely slows the game down. It takes it from something that feels almost like a light filler game. It's a little on the long side for a filler, but it had that feeling for me of a filler game. And this expansion moves it clearly into this is the main game you are playing.
And like, here's an amusing thing. For our local board game nights, we present menus. And on the menu, we have a section called starters for games that are like 15 minutes, half an hour or less. And then we have another one that's like entrees or main courses where we tend to have games that are an hour or more. Well, with the expansion, Land versus Sea had to be put into a different category. I had to delete it from the starters and put it under the main courses. Now, this should be a good thing. We like heavy games. Check out episode 284 of our podcast to hear about our favorite heavy games. And in general, I love expansions that add more weight and depth to a game. But in this case, I'm just not sure. I liked Land versus Sea for what it was, a quick romp that rewarded clever play. It never took too long, nor did it require too much thinking or planning ahead. We could play it over beers. We could have a conversation while playing. Well, I like added complexity in most games. I'm not sure that's what I want Land versus Sea. Now, on the other hand, I know many people who found Land versus Sea too light, and I saw the reviewers and some of the comments on Board Game Geek were like, this game is more simple than I thought it was going to be. I want more complexity. Well, if that's you, this expansion's for you. Like, go pick this up because this is giving you exactly that. It is giving you Land versus Sea with more meat, more strategy, more tactics, more ways to outplay your opponent.
So
I am really on the fence here, and I feel like maybe a bit more than 50% of the time, I would rather just play the original base game. I like some of the things that are going on here. I like some of the added complexity, but the base game is just so good on its own. And this does take it into a bigger time commitment and a bigger attention commitment.
So when you put it on the table, what do you think you're going to use from Uncharted?
So really, it depends on who I'm playing with, how much time I have, what I'm in the mood for, which honestly does come back to my favorite part of Land versus Sea. I said there were my earlier called something my favorite, and I said one of my favorites. My honest favorite part about Land versus Sea is the fact that it's so modular. The fact that I can play with no special scoring, just land versus sea, trying to close each other off. Who can close off more tiles, they win. quick, playing light. I can have a conversation. I could be watching the game while I'm playing even. But I can also throw in the caravan scoring, and I can throw in the coral scoring and the mountain scoring and make it a more complicated game if that's what I'm looking for. Well, this gives me more of those dials, more things I can mix and match, more ways to tweak the game. And I love that aspect of Land versus Sea. And that just grows with this. I've got more dials. I got more things I can tweak. There's more things I can throw in and make it the game I want to play with the group I'm going to play with. And that's what it is for me, is it depends who I sit down with. Deanna and I are sitting down over beers, chit-chatting at the end of a game night. We want to play Land versus Sea with nothing on it. Deanna and I are in Kingsville, and it's 11 o'clock in the afternoon, and we go to our favorite coffee roasters and are sitting down to play some games. We're going to grab the biggest table we can find and throw in every single module possible. I'm playing with Gwen. I'm going to play with a different set of tiles than I play with Eve. Now, as someone who hosts public play events, it's the same thing. If I am introducing someone new to the game, I can just show them the basic game. But if I'm introducing the local heavy gamers to the game, I can now throw that complexity in to make the game more suited to them. Like, there's stuff here I probably will use every game. I'll probably throw this new starting tiles even with a new player, because that whole kickstart, that whole you can score something on turn one, I think is important. It gives a much better first impression. But then there's going to be a whole different set of stuff that I leave in the box.
My one complaint for this expansion, now Mo mentioned this earlier, the tiles in this game are busy. There's tons of little detail. Some of it's just there for fun. Some of it is important bits of game info. This was already true of the base game. And all those fun little details are what makes the game look cool on the table and gives it that old school Here Be Dragons kind of map feel. But all of those little details can also make it difficult to spot the important game bits quickly and clearly. And adding more game info bits, more potential skimbles to track to tiles that are already very busy visually, it makes it harder to spot things. And also, there's the fact that if you want to sort out the expansion tiles, the mark that denotes that it's the expansion tile, it's really small. It doesn't really stand out. They are a pain to sort out.
Now, in the Kickstarter version, you could get 3D features for the cities, trade routes, menhirs, and more. This is a great addition to the game, especially for people with vision issues. The one issue, though, according to people on Board Game Geek, though, is it doesn't even come close to fitting in the game box, so we can get those.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to finding out if Good Game Publishing, once they fulfill the Kickstarter, is going to have those available for people to purchase, because I gotta say those would be awesome, especially for the trade routes. Like, we don't have these. I didn't get to try them, but trade route scoring is one of the things that's really easy to miss at the end of the game. And we usually grab something, coins, something, rocks, gems, other board game components to mark them off so we can remove them as we score them. Having 3D pieces out there would be awesome. And then maybe you wouldn't have enough time to make a sandwich if the menhirs were all there nice and 3D on the board. So I got to say, if you own Land vs. Sea and you like it, if you enjoy Land vs. Sea, you play it now and then, if you bought it when it came out and it still hits your table every now and then, definitely look at this expansion. You're probably going to want to pick it up. Now, especially if you found it a little light, if you're like, I wanted a little more. I know a lot of people are like, this is the Carcassonne killer, and the Carcassonne players were like, Carcassonne's better because it's cutthroat and I can complete other people's cities. Well, those people who say that are going to love the city rules in this. Actually, I wonder if that's why they called them cities. You're going to love that. This has the meat that the original game was missing to some people. But if you thought Land vs. Sea was perfect as it was and doesn't need more, maybe this isn't for you. But what I had to do is there's 5 different things added to this, and we just talked about all 5. I would say if 2 of those things sound cool to you, it's probably going to be worth picking up this expansion.
If you didn't like the original Land vs. Sea at all, if it just wasn't for you, I don't think there's anything in this expansion that's going to fix that.
Yeah.
It does add new scoring systems and variants to the basic gameplay and goal, but it adds new scoring systems and variants, but the basic gameplay and the goal of completing patterns has not changed.
So I'm a big fan of expansions that give you lots of different things to add to your game they can mix and match, letting you find that perfect balance for your personal game group or who you're playing with. Other examples include the Trade and Intrigue expansion for Orleans or Rise of Titans for Shadow Kingdoms of Valeria.
What's a modular expansion that you think is a great addition to its base game? Let us know in the comments, send us an email, reach out on social media, or better yet, post something over on our Discord at discord.tabletopbellhop.com.
Ever find yourself in a waiting room, sitting in the car waiting to pick someone up, or at a coffee shop killing some time and wishing you had a game to play? Well then, Pencil Book Quest could be the perfect game for you.
Pencil Book Quest is a fantasy role-playing game experience that fits in your pocket. It's a small spiral-bound book, a bookmark and pencil that provides a solo kind of JRPG Zelda kind of style adventure anywhere you go. It features the ability to pause and pick up things anytime, so you can just put it down and pick it up when you want. This interesting gaming experience comes from David of Grumpy Spider Games and is a follow-up to Pocketbook Adventures, which we previewed in the past, and I do have to thank David for a review copy of his latest game.
Yeah, we previewed Pocketbook Adventures back in 2022 on episode 190 of the show and also on the blog, and we thought it was very clever and quite fun. We'll drop a link in the episode and a link to the review in the notes.
Compared to Pocketbook Adventures, Pencil Book Quest is a slightly larger book, better suited to a back pocket or your vehicle's glove box. It also comes with a pencil that substitutes for a D6, which is kind of cool. Finally, there's a two-sided bookmark for both keeping track of your place as well as measuring your hit points, coins, status effects, inventory, and weapons. You can pick up this single-player game for $18 before shipping or $5 in PDF through Kickstarter right now.
Note it is not currently funding. This is an after the project's done, you can still back it kind of thing. Now, gameplay in Pencil Book Quest involves working through what they call campaign areas, and each campaign is represented by 2 pages of the book. Now, most of these involve rules and a list of monsters on the left of the map, on the left page, and then a map to explore on the right page, but there are some variations. Now, in the original Pocketbook Adventures, you just played through the book, a set of pages at a time. You did your map, you flip the page to the next map, flip the page to the next map. One of the coolest things Pencil Book Quest offers is significantly more agency. You start off flipping the pages, but pretty soon you reach the first city. Once you've reached a city, you're now able to move between any previously discovered cities, and every city offers multiple quests to complete, having you flip through the book which way style and giving you a chance to actually explore in the ways you want to, giving a bit of a sandbox feel.
Actually, completing the majority of campaigns in Pencil Book Quest involves finding the starting point, then moving around the map exactly 4 steps at a time unless you run into a monster. And any items you pass over are automatically picked up and include things like regaining health, coins to go shopping in town, potions, and more. Every map also includes 1 treasure chest and 1 key, and you need the key to open the chest, which you have to stop on the treasure chest exactly. Like you have to get that 4 steps to line up just right to land on the treasure chest.
When you end your turn adjacent to a monster, you fight it. This is done using a cool system where you put your pencil down on a bar above the monster's graphic. Close your eyes, lift the pencil up, and then put the pencil back down, trying to hit the bullseye below the monster. These bullseyes are made of 3 circles, and some areas are shaded in. If you land on the outer circle, you take 2 damage. The inner circle means 1, and the bullseye means none. Now, if you land on a shaded spot, the monster's special attack goes off, with details of that being listed on the page. This could lead to additional damage or cause lasting status effects. No matter the outcome, the monster is defeated and can now be moved through. If you ever run out of health, you die, but don't worry, the game has rules for respawning.
Now you complete these campaign maps by moving out the exit. You then rank yourself based on how well you did in 3 different areas. 1 is the number of monsters you defeated, 2 is the amount of health you have left, and finally, 3rd is how many moves it took you to get out. You get the highest ranking. To get the highest ranking, you want to take as few moves as you can to defeat a large number of monsters without losing too much health. Makes sense, right? Fewest moves, lots of monsters dead, didn't lose much health. But you also want to make sure to pick up some of the loot and treasure along the way so that you're properly equipped for later adventures, which can be much harder than it sounds.
In addition to standard campaigns, there are all kinds of interesting mini games and boss fights that you're going to run into, each with their own special rules. Also, some of the maps feature different movement rules, like when you're at sea, you can't move against the wind. There's even an escort quest. Each city also has mini games you can play, like rock skipping contest or archery. There's all kinds of neat, interesting, fun things in this book, which we are going to leave for you to discover on your own because that's half the fun.
Now, once you get to the end of the book there and defeat the final boss, there's a scoring system based on how well you did on each quest, which is tracked on a map page at the front of the book. There's a title assigned for each of the 3 tracks, enemies, health, and moves, and a spot to record this so you can share with other players for bragging rights.
So Pencil Book Quest is very much a follow-up to Pocketbook Adventures. It feels and looks similar. Like, to the fact that after doing the first quest, I'm like, that was so similar. I went and grabbed my copy of Pocketbook Adventures and went, no, okay, they're not the same. They're similar. I fought the same types of monsters. Every quest in here, every map is unique. There is no overlap between the 2 books, which is pretty impressive. These are all totally new quests. In general, the system has been slightly simplified and streamlined. There were some things that were rebalanced, and the whole experience is just a lot of fun. The best part is the fact it's no longer linear. The whole feeling of being able to wander and do quests in any order. And I would say it also kind of does the JRPG thing where there might be a recommended order of doing things. You don't want to do something too difficult too early until you've leveled up a bit in a way. I think that's really cool, and it gives it more of a role-playing game feel than the original book did. The inclusion of the bookmark is really nice because it helps you keep your place and makes the record keeping easier, which kind of makes sense because in the old book, you just flip pages. Well, now you don't know where you might be in the book. You might flip to page 9 and do 3 quests, and then flip to page 23 and do 3 quests. So the bookmark helps for that. And you're not just rewriting your health every turn on every page, because it used to be you went to a new thing and it's copy all over the information over from the last time. Well, that's all done on the bookmark.
That one small change that they made where they added some which way book aspects to this game, to me, just really bumped it up to the next level.
Yeah. Now, one of my favorite things in Pocketbook Adventures that carried over, and I was so happy it hadn't changed, is the combat system. There's just something fun and tactile about this whole, like, put your point on the map in this spot, close your eyes, lift it up, and try to hit the right spot on the bullseye. I don't know why. It's just fun. It's neat. You get tempted to cheat like you do in most which way books, but I've yet to do it. And then the way every monster is different in what they do. Like, I was 3 quests in before I realized that on the pixies, I should be aiming for the shadows because they actually heal you. And I'm like, I totally missed that. So here I am killing all these pixies, but if I'd hit the right spots, they'd been healing me and I might have had more health when I got to the first town. Slight spoiler, possibly. It's all right there on the page. And then there's just like neat, fun variations on this with the various mini games. Like the archery contest is a bunch of different bullseyes, and you have to pay 5 gold to take part. And depending on where you hit, you get money back. I just think it's really neat, and I love that tactile. I don't know. There's just something smart about put the pencil down, close your eyes, and put it down again. The other thing that's neat is the fact that pencil's a D6. That's just cool. I think it was Amigo Games had done that with some of their roll and write games. That was the first time I've seen it. It was cool to see that used here. I'm glad to see they didn't overuse it. I was really worried when I saw that it was going to be a dice-based combat system and I was going to have to roll to hit. I'm glad that didn't happen. Honestly, the main thing it's used for, and actually the only thing I've seen it used for, is rolling for treasure and treasure chests, which just has a neat plus your luck mechanic. And I introduced the game to Gwen last night, and it was hilarious because we're sitting here and I'm like, roll the pencil. She's like, what? I'm like, roll the pencil. So she kind of looks at me weird and rolls it. And I'm like, what number is showing? She's like, oh, it's a 3. So I thought that was
the look fun on her face when you asked her to roll that pencil. Like, she clearly thought you had just lost it. The best thing, though, that I think we really have to stress is that the entire thing is, this is really a pencil puzzle. It's the kind of thing you used to find in Games Magazine. And oh, how we miss Games Magazine. Mm-hmm. Most campaigns and even most boss fights are grid-based movement puzzles. It's just all about finding the best path. When we were showing it to Gwen, she's like, I think I want to figure out the whole thing before I even put my pencil down. there are random elements, and your fighting ability is based on your own personal dexterity, and you can definitely have bad luck, but actually solving most pages just involves finding that best path. And if that's not the kind of thing you enjoy, you probably aren't going to enjoy Pencil Book Quest.
Yeah, this is very much a physical artifact for people who like physical artifacts. Folks who would rather do everything on their phone and don't want physical books or games if they're out at the coffee shop or sitting in the car aren't going to magically have their minds changed by this game.
Yeah, and personally, I just think it's a great alternative to sitting on your phone. Instead of playing the mindless match 3 games or whatever else you happen to be doing on your phone, or just doom scrolling, I found this a little cooler thing to do and more engaging and enjoyable. And like Sean said, it's also an artifact. I can show off the page and go, look how far I did, or what I ended up doing. There was one particular chest that I could not figure out how to get to. And I brought that back home to the family. And I'm like, Gwen and Dee, can you figure out how to get to this dang chest? I can't figure it out. And that's something you just don't quite get otherwise. Now, one problem with this, of course, is the fact that you're writing in the book. You can only really play Pencil Book Quest once. Well, I guess you could go through and erase everything. And to be honest, I did that for the quest. I couldn't find the chest. I just erased the whole page and said, here, Gwen, you try, see if you can do better than me. But honestly, I wouldn't want to release this whole book. It's over 80 pages. It might be over 90 pages. It's at least 80 pages. That's a lot of erasing. Plus the paper's it's not bad quality, but like, it's not the kind that erases well. So I think this is a play once. Now, if you do have the PDF version, and if you buy the Kickstarter physical, they send you the PDF too. You can always print off your own copy when you're done, or individual pages or individual quests. But in general, when you finish, you're not going to be giving this to someone else or trying again without picking up a copy.
Or if you do play through this and you finish the entire thing, I recommend grabbing Pocketbook Adventures, which is still available on the Grumpy Spider website.
So overall, these are 2 games from Grumpy Spider from David, both kind of similar, but I just think they're cool. Like, they're just neat. They're neat, small solo RPG books. I am a parent, and we are taking care of my aging mother. A big part of that is sitting in parking lots or waiting rooms. Well, there are medical appointments or school appointments or after school activities. This gives me something to do other than grabbing my phone, which is awesome for me. I played this while waiting for someone an appointment. I played it waiting for something to finish on the computer because I was silly and opened too many Amazon tabs at once. I've even taken a few moves while waiting for my double pot of coffee to brew. I really like Pocketbook Adventures, and Pencil Book Quest is just a better version. It's a little bigger, and the which way aspect is fantastic. Like, that's just such a nice way to improve on the original system. Like, if you ever find yourself wishing you had time to kill, wishing to have something to do time to kill other than grabbing your phone and doom scrolling, I think you should check these games out.
What do you do when you're killing time? Are there any games like these portable quest books that you like to play? Let us know in the comments, through email, on social media, or over on our Discord.
These are also great games to play when you're taking a break and enjoying a cup of joe. Though that does require some coffee, you can hook us up and help keep us all caffeinated and motivated by heading to tabletopbellhop.com/coffee. Do you have difficulty picking up cards? Then we may have a solution for you. You may have seen the ads for the Pick-Up Card Lifter. Well, we got our hands on some of them and are going to let you know if they're worth picking up.
So for some reason, I have ridiculously hard time picking up cards from hard surfaces, especially gaming tables. I don't know what it is. Finger shape, nails, my nail shape, cutting my nails, letting them grow out doesn't seem to help. I just have a hard time picking up cards. It's a thing. I'm known for this. This is a thing that everyone knows who's played games with me, and is kind of a running joke in our game groups. I get ribbed on it quite often. Many people in the local community know Mo can't pick up cards. Kind of a joke with everyone. So that's the reason when the people from the Pick-Up or Pick-Up, I'm not sure the proper way to pronounce that, reached out and asked if we wanted to give their product a shot, I was like, heck yeah, I want one of these things. I have a hard time picking up cards. This is made for me. This will be awesome. So a few weeks after contacting me, they sent me a box. They sent me 4 of these things, which is pretty impressive. So they come in black and white. I happen to have a white one in my hand. I got a black one behind me on the counter. So Since getting that, we've been bringing them out to our public play events, and we've been trying them out to see how well they work.
Now, physically, these come in tiny cardboard tubes covered with branding, each having a foil seal on the side indicating that they are official P-Cup products. And it's serious overkill. Like, I think someone is worried about people stealing their design here. Inside each, there's a slip of paper thanking us for our purchase and offering a discount code that works on a future P-Cup purchase or at pirategoldpoker.com, which is deluxe metal poker chips, which are from the same people. The packaging, the cardboard sleeve tube, interestingly, like it has this 50-spot tracker on it, like something you'd use for tracking health in Magic the Gathering. So that's an interesting multi-use thing there.
Now, inside this packaging is the pickup itself, in a plastic bag along with a strip of paper with a QR code linking on tips on how to use it. The tool itself is about 2 inches tall and has some weight to it. The outside is plastic, but there's a metal inside giving it the weight. The bottom is a suction cup, and the top is a button. Note there's no instruction included with the product on how to actually use it, just that paper strip with a QR code.
Now, there's videos all over the web of people using this thing to pick up cards, specifically showing people picking up more than one card at once, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards. And then even people showing picking up entire like 54 card decks. This generally involves cupping the tool in your hand and just slapping it down onto the cards, then hitting the button to release them. Now, for heavier cards, it does say that if you want to try to like pick up a whole deck or heavier cards, you actually hold the button down until you make contact and release to increase the suction. These all look awesome and amazing and magical, and you see them and you're like, holy cow, that is so sweet. Look at that. You're just like slap, 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 and picking up all these cards. Sadly, it doesn't work nearly as well as this, or as well as the video seemed to indicate. We have not gotten the level of success that we've seen in many of those videos.
Now, the magic of the pickup is that it provides enough suction that it actually bends the thing it's picking up, making it slightly concave, so that the card that it's picked up becomes a suction cup of its own. And that's why you can pick up multiple cards. That's the trick. For it to work, the cards need to be able to bend, not a lot, but just enough. And this works fantastically if you're trying to pick up cards off of a play mat, like a neoprene mat, which has some give to it, right? But it doesn't work quite so well on a hard surface, like, say, a table where people are playing games.
So the suction isn't very strong and often only holds onto cards for a few moments. While you can hold one card for quite a while, picking up a set at once, you need to put them where they're going right away.
Yeah.
And while the videos show picking up entire decks, this is more of a gimmick than a trick and not really practical due to how little time you have to put that deck in your hand if you manage to grab it.
Yeah, and I actually think the picking up decks is like the sideshow trick. Look at this cool thing that this thing could do. And I'm like, no, good luck with that one. I'm sorry.
It's like it includes a bad dexterity game. Like, try and use this thing to pick up a deck and get it in your hand as quick as possible.
There you go. The problem, though, for me, and my issue with the pickup is the solid flat surface problem. When a card's sitting on a standard table, like our dining room table, or more importantly, our game room table, it's actually really hard to pick up even a single card because the vacuum created is too strong. The pickup is basically trying to pick up the card along with the table under it, and often will come up without the card. While there are some tricks to doing this, and they're on the QR code and they're on their website, it's just not easy to pick up cards with the pickup on a standard solid surface. Now toss a neoprene mat there and you're golden. But you know what? If there's a neoprene mat there, I don't need a pickup to pick up the cards. I can just pick them up. That's one of the advantages a neoprene mat gives me when I'm playing on it, is it gives a giving surface that I can now pick up cards from. So unfortunately for me, the thing this pickup was trying to sell me on, the ability to pick up cards when you can't, you needed another tool there that meant that I no longer needed the pickup, and a tool that's much cheaper than these are.
We played around with it, and it does pick up cards, but if I can't consistently and easily pick up the card, if it picks up a card part of the time, it's taking me more time to fiddle around with this thing than it would be just to slide it to the end of the table or something. I don't know. The annoyance factor was high.
So
yeah, we actually had one of these out last night at a Proto Spiel game night we were doing here in Windsor, ProtoWIN game night. And we had like less than a 33% success rate at picking up 3 cards. That's it, just 3 cards. All we wanted to do was pick up 3 cards and put them in our hand. They're less than 33%. And that's with trying all of the different techniques and tricks that they advertise and tell us to try while doing it. And again, this is on a flat surface, but that's what I want it for.
And we tried it on different card stock, different card types, and just not a great success rate.
So while Mo had said this is heavily advertised, I'd actually never heard of it. And I've still never actually seen an ad for it in the wild. Their website, however, is a laundry list of red flags for purchasing things. I would even say red flags for websites you might not want to give any information or credit card to. They rely on gimmicks like scarcity advertising, limited time offers that never actually expire, urgency while checking out. There's a countdown timer as soon as you hit that checkout button. Inconsistent images of how the product is actually working and being used. Attempts to create an aura of mystery or magic as to how it actually works. As well, there are multiple SKUs to choose from when checking out that are all the exact same product with a little bit of different marketing spiel, depending on whether or not you have a fancy manicure you want to keep or not. The upsell on defaults, when you first click through, you automatically are buying 2. The first time you click, I want to buy one, you're buying 2 of them. And then there are also some questionable math on what that actual final price is going to be.
That was a big one for me. It's one of those ones where they have a permanent sale on. The MSRP is not the MSRP. I sort of hate when companies do that.
Now, going back to the product and its usefulness, there are probably people out there that could really use a pickup. Like, I think the fact that there is a tool created out there to pick up cards for people who have a hard time picking up cards is amazing. That's why I jumped at the chance to check this out. I don't personally have mobility or dexterity issues. I don't have arthritis. I don't have the shakes. I don't have Parkinson's. I don't have any issues. I just have a hard time picking up cards for whatever stupid reason that I don't understand. I do know lots of people that do have issues with their manual dexterity. Those are the people I think this could be a godsend for, that could be amazing for them. If this actually does help them pick up things, that would be fantastic. Unfortunately, we didn't have any gamers that we've hung out with in a lot of recent while to actually get to try them out. For them, this is amazing and could be amazing. But for your average person who just has a hard time picking up cards on hard surfaces like me, these aren't the miracle solution that I was really hoping they would be.
Yeah, I'm going to clarify there. What you're trying to say is this could be really useful for people that want to pick up things on a neoprene mat, that want that added tool for on a mat, not on a hard table.
So I also feel we need to talk about the cost. These things are $29 US or $42 Canadian each. That's not cheap at all. And unfortunately, a lot of that money seems to be going into this wild, over-the-top packaging with UV coatings, hollow stickers, a health track, stuff that has nothing to do with being able to pick up a card. So I will say, however, on the plus side, their shipping into or within Canada wasn't actually as shocking as I expected. Shopify sites have often been known for being horrifying with heart-stopping shipping costs once you click through. And this one was actually, I will say, reasonable for a single pickup.
Now, again, we mentioned this already, but like the MSRP is 42 Canadian, but you're not going to pay that much. You're never going to pay that much. They're always using the forever sale. I've never seen these for sale at full price. Like when doing the show notes, so this may be out of date now, but yesterday when I was checked on their website, I went and the default purchase, Sean noted the default's 2, which is kind of misleading, but the default purchase of 2 is $41.38. Well, that's less than the MSRP for 1. So by default, you're getting it for less than that. So what's the real MSRP? What's the real actual retail price of this item? In addition to that, there's a Halloween coupon for 30% off. So not only you're getting 2 for the price of 1, you're also getting 30% off. So like, what's the actual cost of these things? Like, I don't know what the actual value of a single pickup is anymore because of this. I hate that style of marketing. Like Deanna said, I hate saying it's always 30% off. If it's always 30% off, then the price is that 30% off. And only if you have a discount on top of it, doesn't matter. Now, here's where it's going to be kind of ironic. So when I heard about this thing, I thought it was amazing. The videos make it look amazing. I thought this was going to solve all my card problems. So when they reached out to us, I said, sure, we'll review your product, but do you have an affiliate program? Yes, you do. That's awesome. Can we get a discount code for our fans? And yes, we do. So yet again, that MSRP dropping, if you use code BELLHOP, BELLHOP, you can get 10% off at the Pickup website on whatever offer. And as far as I can tell, it even stacks with the 30% off Halloween deal. So if you do want to check these out, at least we can save you a bit of cash. Well, I want to say the pickup, whatever you want to call it, didn't live up to my hopes. I want to see more of this, please. Companies, inventors, more things that make board games more accessible for more people is amazing. I really hope this is a useful tool for people with more serious dexterity issues. I think it is awesome as a tool for that. I want to see more accessibility in board games. Give me more things. Like in the video game world, they finally have the new, more accessible PlayStation controller. Find me stuff like that. Give me more card holders. Give me card shufflers. Give me something to pick up wooden components, because that doesn't exist yet that I know of. I want to see more of that. And what I want to know from you, our fans, is what kind of accessibility tools do you have you seen, have you used, or would you like to see? What have you found that would make a game much more accessible? What's something would be able to get a family member to come play a game with you they couldn't have played without?
Please send them in. We really want to hear. And if we get enough recommendations, maybe we can take them all and list them on our blog, or we'd love to talk about this as a future podcast topic, because, it's fascinating stuff.
Now for this, you're best off emailing mo@tabletopbellhop.com, but we'll take your suggestions anywhere. Post a reply, DM us, post on the Discord, wherever. Well, that was the double bell.
That means our shift's coming to an end, and we're going to have to lock the lobby doors.
Now, before we start locking things down, let's take a moment to thank a selection of our Tabletop Bellhop Patreon patrons, all of whom are awesome.
Thank you, William Fisher.
Andrew Dacey, thank you.
Thank you, Danielle and Owen Thomas.
Sean P. Kelly. Thanks, Sean.
Derek Hisson, thank you, Mr. H.
And thank you to the members of the Misdirected Mark podcast. Now, while this episode is wrapping up, you can always find us at tabletopbellhop.com, all over the web as Tabletop Bellhop, one word. Be sure to subscribe on your podcatcher of choice and set us on auto download so you never miss an episode no matter when it drops. And while you're there, why not leave us a review that help other people find us?
So is there a game or game night topic that we haven't covered yet that you want us to talk about? Now, our normal format, of course, is answering your game and game night questions. Sometimes, though, like tonight, we deviate from that to cover other things. If you got something you want to hear us talk about, just let us know through email, social media, or Discord.
Seriously, your questions fuel our content. You guys send in such amazing and interesting things that we would never come up with on our own. Keep them coming. Send them in.
That's all for us tonight.
Well, for the Tabletop Bellhop Gaming Podcast, I'm Sean.
I'm Deanna.
And I'm Mo.
Thank you.
And game on.